Upon death, a married person can leave an unlimited amount of property to the surviving spouse with no tax consequences. The property must be left outright, but there is an exception for something known as QTIP. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now with a breakdown. Roger, let's start with some background on the Qualified Terminable Interest Property Trust and how it ties into all of this.
Good to be with you, Tammy. A QTIP trust is an irrevocable trust that takes effect when the first spouse dies. It sets up a life estate in the trust property for the surviving spouse with the remainder going to whoever the deceased spouse wants it to, whoever they designate. So it's an exception to the rule that the marital deduction only applies to property that passes outright to the surviving spouse. So it allows that deceased spouse to claim a marital deduction for the life estate property that passes to the surviving spouse.
So what are some of the QTIP requirements?
Well, you have to make an election on the estate tax return, and the property has to pass from the deceased spouse to the surviving spouse. And the surviving spouse has to be entitled to all of the income from the property for life, paid at least once a year. And nobody other than the surviving spouse can appoint any part of the principal of the trust to anyone other than the surviving spouse during the surviving spouse's lifetime.
So do you have an example for us?
Yeah, there are actually many, but there was a recent tax court case that illustrates how careful you have to be to get the anticipated tax benefit, and they kind of messed it up badly. But the whole QTIP technique is a very useful planning tool in situations where the deceased spouse has children from a prior marriage, and so it allows the deceased spouse to benefit the surviving spouse for life, and then benefit the children of the first marriage and still get the marital deduction.
Good information. So what's a big takeaway here for our farmers and ranchers?
Well, farm and ranch estates can be very, very complex, and that complexity increases when you have a prior marriage or marriages that are involved. And the QTIP is a tool that can work well with the right facts to make sure that not only can we get a good transition of the farm to the next generation, but we can keep out certain individuals that shouldn't have an interest in that farming operation going forward.
All right, I love that name, QTIP. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. Appreciate your time and input today.